Okay, that's now recording. When, if you see this, we haven't got a clue what's going on.
Is this how we're starting the pod? Is this going to be at the start before the tune?
Start now.
We got to save all these little bits for like a Christmas one.
Anyway, I'm about to start the start music, so let's go.
You shouldn't even edit this bit out. Just keep.
This is Unpivot, the show for Excel and Power BI fans and anyone who likes chatting about data. I'm Mark Proctor.
I'm Sue Bays.
I'm Giles Male.
Giles
and that's
Male.
it. There's just three of us today. So any regular listeners might be thinking, where's Win? Why is Win not there? Have we fired him? Has he been sacked?
No, definitely not. But he's having way too much fun based on the picture he's just sent us.
Yes, absolutely. We're very jealous.
So Win is currently in Lapland, racing on some huskies on a sled somewhere. He sent us a picture a few moments ago. He's looking, I said to Giles before, he's looking a bit like James Bond in some ways. It looks just epic.
I mean, this feels like classic midlife crisis kicking in for Win, doesn't it? What's he going to do next?
There's the man with the tattoos and the
Oh, I embrace mine. I've been in it for more than a decade. I'm just worried about Win.
He looked so happy, didn't he? It's one of his bucket list things that he wants to do. So he looks ecstatic, which is surprising, seeing as he's gone from lovely warm country to here and then even colder.
Yes.
Yes, he also sent us a picture. He's a mix,
Giles?
isn't he? Because he's from Wales, so he's used to our UK weather, but he lives in Australia.
Yeah, but he's been there for 20 years, hasn't he?
Oh, okay.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Cool. So what do we do without Win? What do we do?
We don't do anything, to be honest. We just when he's like our dad. When the dad's away, everyone just parties.
Are we just going to get in loads of trouble now? What are we going to do?
Yes. So I was told I have to say that I did some VBA, Mark. I was so
VBA. What? Come on, Sue. What was your VBA?
So it was for one of my customers. They have like RFID tags, and they're moving from one provider to another. And so the current provider scans the RFID and converts it into decimal, but it's actually hex. So the new provider doesn't want the conversion. It's going to go into hex. So what I had to do with the database was convert all of the new ones in binary into hex. And hex is like 16, base 16. So it's got numbers in it and letters in it, which I could do in Power Query. But then they wanted a little Excel spreadsheet to put, as they're putting new people in, because they've got double entry for a little bit. They had to type the number in, and then they wanted to convert it, and it wouldn't do it in Excel. It would do in Power Query, but it wouldn't do it in Excel because the number was too big. So I had to do it in VBA.
Ah, interesting. So how many digits did your number have then?
8. So it's
Excel
8-digit
can
number.
handle 8 digits.
Not from decimal to hex.
It must, well, because you've got color codes, right? So the color codes is that can be up to, I suppose that's like 16 million. So that'll be 8 digits. I don't know. Either way, Sue, well done.
Yeah, it wouldn't work. It wouldn't work. So I thought, and I thought of you, and I thought, well, Mark's VBA, and so yes, you inspired me to do it. So I did it.
Because a number of years ago, I created this was before that thing existed in PowerPoint. So in PowerPoint, there used to be the well, I suppose it's now in Excel and Word. It just used to have the RGB color, but it didn't have the hex color. So I created an Excel add-in that would convert between hex, RGB, CYMK, and there's also HSL and HSV. So you could change between all these color codes. So I became a bit of a nerd for about. Well, I became a bit of a nerd. I became a bit of a nerd for about 2 weeks.
That sentence.
In this area.
I was a nerd before that. I'm a nerd afterwards. But during those 2 weeks, I became an exceptional nerd about color codes and hex and all of that stuff. So yeah, and all of that was with with VBA doing those calculations.
Well, I sort of have a love-hate with VBA because I know it's phenomenally powerful, but I always used to get a bit stuck with it sometimes. Like, why are you asking me to do this? So I did cheat and I told ChatGPT my problem. And it said, it's okay, Sue. Click on this. Yes. Write your code in. Boom. Done.
Boom.
I've always got in the back of my mind stuff Craig Hatmaker was telling me about the dangers of VBA, the fact that you can essentially access the operating system and you do some crazy stuff through VBA that you probably just don't even think of as a normal user.
Yeah, and that's the risk with it, and why so many people get a bit agitated about it, because it can do absolutely anything. It can. So I can't remember the statistics, and it's probably under NDA or something anyway. But when Microsoft brought in the feature where you have to unblock workbooks that contain macros, lots of people were up in arms. But somebody shared some statistics at the time of the number of malicious attacks that are attempted using VBA enabled workbooks. And literally, I went from being up in arms, how dare you restrict my usage of VBA? And then I saw these statistics. I'm like, I will never use VBA again. This is.
It's so powerful.
Exactly, and that's the risk with it. And I don't know, but also if you've got a standard Python installation, so not through Excel, not through some other means. If you've got Python installed, I'm guessing that Python has access to all of that as well, and therefore potentially has the same issues. But I suppose if you open up an Excel workbook and it's got a macro enabled, it's just going to, because everyone just clicked like enable contents and didn't even think about what was in the workbook. So it could easily just go off, download some stuff from the internet, stick it on your network drive, and then set it running. And then however long later, you've got some Trojan horse that's just sat there waiting to cause some harm. I don't know about Python, about whether I think it has that power, but I don't think anyone just clicks a thing and then it opens up a Python file and does all those things. But the risk is.
Yeah, I mean, you've got all the libraries that will access the system files and do all sorts of things like that. But I think, like you say, it's not as easy to access a Python. Someone wouldn't open it, you would think, without thinking about it. Whereas Excel spreadsheet, you just open and use because it's so normal.
Exactly. So good. Well done, Sue, on
Fantastic.
on using VBA and also cheating it with ChatGPT.
Oh yeah, I have ChatGPT open all the time.
So at the moment, I've got a challenge which there's a VBA solution for it, and I'm trying to convert it into a Lambda function. So it's how you create. I'm trying to create a fuzzy match lookup function.
Yeah.
So there's an algorithm which is called, I think it's the Levenstein algorithm for finding the biggest, like the difference between two text strings. And there's a VBA function that I've got that does it. Owen Price has created one out as a Lambda, but it's a recursive Lambda. And I want one that's not recursive, but converting that VBA to a Lambda function is absolutely blowing my mind.
I'm surprised. Yeah, surprised Owen hasn't gone for a Python solution.
Well, he has got a Python solution, but the Python solution, you can call a library and it comes out and it does all the work for you.
Yeah.
so he's got a standard Excel Lambda and also a Python version.
Yeah.
But I'm specifically trying to create a non-recursive Lambda version, which I said just conceptually is because it's trying to be because it's trying to why. Well, so we had as part of our membership, we had a call yesterday, and one of our members had so effectively they've got a price list that contains a description. They've also got another description which may or may not be similar to exactly what's on the price list.
Yeah.
So he wants to then pull out the values. He wants to then work out what the price is based on a flexi or a fuzzy match.
Fuzzy match.
I mean, we could do it in Power Query.
I was going to say, why not Power Query?
Because once you've got your data right, it then ends up becoming a lookup. So let's suggest you've got an item and you're trying to change that with a data validation list or something else. You're only ever looking at one value, and you don't have to click it and then click refresh and then click it and then click refresh. So Power Query is great for when you want to get your data into that shape. So that's so we came up with something on the call that effectively counted the number of similar words in a string and then returned the most likely output. But then I was thinking, there's got to be a way that can handle more of a fuzzy match. And now I've just gone into this
nerd Phil.
So where are you going to, because I'm thinking of things like concat and search with wildcards and things like that. Is there something around that you can do where you can?
I mean, so that's pretty much what I did for the first version, which was so for each word in the value that you were searching for, we searched all the columns in the price list to find out how many individual words matched the words in the price list. That then came up with a ranking number, and then you found the one with the highest ranking number, which isn't necessarily the right answer, right?
What about regex? Have you been playing with regex?
I'm not. I see regex is specifically about patterns, and I was thinking about this yesterday, and I'm not sure that patterns will because you're trying to find a pattern, and we're trying to say that we don't necessarily know what the pattern is, because we're just trying to say whether something is like something else. Anyway,
why don't you use Python in Excel?
Because I don't want to use Python, because then it's got to call the Python library.
Excel. Yeah.
Because then it's got to call the Python library, which somebody may or may not have. And once you call that Python library enough times, it goes, haha, do you want to pay some more money?
Does it? I thought it was free in Excel.
So I think it's free. It's free to use, but if you get a high enough level of usage, I believe it then comes up and says, do you want premium performance? Do you want various other things? So there's an element of paying, I believe. Anyway,
also, it's just a nice challenge, though, isn't it? Just as a personal challenge to solve it.
To start with, I thought this should be easy enough, right? This should be a challenge.
Going nuts.
And then it ended up being a nightmare. So either way, that's my current. I've got a VBA solution. I'm trying to change it into a Lambda. It was it's a nightmare.
That's why we have libraries like Python. Code like Python.
I know, but where's the fun in that? Just using
I get what you're saying, Mark. I hope you solve it. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Good luck. We want to know in 2 weeks' time.
So let's. I suppose we've kind of started on news already. So let's continue with news.
And we have our targets, our 2 week targets.
We do have our targets. Yeah.
I mean, Sue sent around a spreadsheet. I've not even looked at Sue's spreadsheet. I haven't filled out anything on Sue's spreadsheet. I've done nothing whatsoever in terms of these goals. But I can at least give an update on progress.
Give us an update on progress.
So in terms of goals, shall I go first? So
yes.
There were two things. First of all, I said I was going to run 3 times a week. And secondly, the other challenge that you lot set me without even knowing it was the fact that I said I had around, I think, 100,000 calories of sweets and chocolates and all of that left in the house. So, and you said, well, you've got to get rid of that by the end of the year. Well, on that challenge, I'm doing exceptionally well. Yeah, like in terms of a run rate basis, like 2 weeks in, I'm pretty much 75% of the way there. Like in terms of that challenge,
so twice a week then.
I'm an absolute hero in terms of eating my way through the previous stockpile of sweets and chocolates. No issue there. In terms of the running 3 times a week, I think you said I should have done it 5 times by the time this podcast starts, and I'm at 40%. So I've only been twice, but still, it's a start. My shoes came, I turned them on, it all works. So I've made a start.
Yeah.
That's
great.
I'm not
Sue,
a hero.
on the spreadsheet, that's week attempt 1 fail against Mark's name. 40% is not good enough.
I've given him 2 out of 5. I've added him to the spreadsheet, even though
poor attempt. We're setting an example here, Mark. Come on. 180% next time. Good.
Who's next? Giles.
Yeah.
Go on, Giles.
I've done mine. I've been running a lot. Sue, you might have seen it on Strava. I'm back.
I haven't, but I will look now.
Yeah.
That wasn't your goal, though, Giles. Yours was around Excel challenges.
Excel challenge. I had 2, I think. I had the run.
You've got 3. You've got 2 runs a week.
2 runs a week I've been doing.
Yeah, you've
challenges,
got 1 body weight exercise session a week.
Yep, smashing that. So I've hit all my targets. The inspiration that I am, 100%.
100%, I will add it. Yeah, work through 3 main MECC Excel battle cases.
Yeah, so I've done all of that. I need to do some videos actually off the back of them, but yes, I have achieved my targets.
Good stuff, Sue.
Mine was to run at least 5K a day, which I've done, so I'm very pleased about that. To complete 1 chapter of the tablet editor course per week, so I've done that this week.
Well done.
To lose the December weight in January, and halfway there, so nice. January. So we're on track for that. And to produce 1 video for YouTube per fortnight. And I have done 1, but it was from my user group, but I am just finishing 1 off to go today.
Okay, so is that a win, or is your YouTube one? Is that are you putting that as a pass or a fail?
I'm putting that as a pass because it's not the end of the day yet.
It's not the end of the day.
That's the biggest challenge, is like trying to do the YouTube videos, because you would think it's like I did something today, and so I was in Power BI and producing a report to show, it was for another customer, it was their telephone numbers, and they have specific telephone numbers that are called for a specific marketing purpose. So they wanted a list of dates and times that these numbers were called. So I thought, brilliant, shoved it into my little Power BI report, a thin one, because I've already got one that does it, and filtered it on these things. So I thought, I'll put it as a paginated report for them, and then it can be scheduled to run every week. So they don't have to do anything. It just appears in there, and then they can download it as an Excel. Well, when you download a paginated report into Excel with time, it doesn't show it as time. It shows it as hashtags. It's really bizarre. So even though it's, because in Excel, when the columns are not big enough, you get all the hashtags. It was downloading this paginated report as Excel with hashtags, even though there was plenty of width. So you can download and edit the report in paginated reports. So I then chatted to my little friend ChatGPT, and it gave me all of the reasons why it could possibly be doing that, of which 90% of them were wrong. But it then gave me this tiny little bit of formatting code. So I wrapped the formatting code around the time, and now it exports perfectly.
Good
so I thought,
excellent.
Brilliant. I'll use that as my YouTube, because I'm meeting with Giles and Mark, and they'll ask me, and I haven't ticked that one, and that one will do, as opposed to another one. It's nice, straightforward, simple. Oh, it takes so long, doesn't it?
Yes.
Your example. It took me about 5 minutes to solve the problem, or less than, and then you think, well, I can't use customer data, so I have to create my own data. So ChatGPT, give me a very simple data set that has this, this, and this in it. So that's fine. And then you're just like, oh. So yeah, it takes forever.
So in summary,
In
Giles
summary.
and Sue are on
Borderline
target.
I think
I am
Sue's borderline.
But
I'm top of the pack. Sue's just behind. Mark's failed miserably.
I will improve. And when I say will, I mean might.
We have got wins targets.
What were wins targets?
Do we know whether wins succeeded?
Well, yes-ish. Yes.
What were the targets?
You love this. So he's to read at least one chapter of Atomic Habits, and I don't know about that. And he was to do at least 20 minutes exercising or stretching every day. So
okay.
in the nice, kind way that I am, I added a little tab onto my spreadsheet for him with a daily tick box for him to tick.
Has he ticked it?
He ticked it to the third.
So when if you listen to this, it's fine. You can stick around with me in the losers corner.
You're a fail.
Yeah.
I don't think Win cares right now on his husky.
No, I don't think he cares right now. He's living the dreams, sledging through the snow, being driven by huskies.
Brilliant.
Right. So there's some other pieces of news which I just should mention. I think it's worth mentioning. First of all, so Chandeep has released his Power Query book.
Yes.
So Power Query Beyond, or Power Query M Beyond the UI, I think it's called. So it's currently available as a PDF, and I think it's coming out in physical copy in June. So if you look on Amazon, I think it's out in June, but you can get a PDF copy now. So that's an exciting piece of news. Another thing that I saw, which was quite interesting. So David Benaim, who's an Excel MVP, he did an article for the ICAW of 100 new Excel features that have been released in the last 5 years, which I thought was quite interesting about the volume of work that has gone into that. So that's also worth checking out. So the top 5 that David mentioned of the 100, so he listed 100 of them, and the top 5 he said were, now I'm not sure all of these they might have come into general availability, and some might be in beta. So I think he's used quite a broad use of the term 5 years, because the first one was XLOOKUP, which I think came out before the last 5 years, but it probably became generally available. Group by, so dynamic arrays, data validation that auto completes as you type, so that's useful, and then the show changes feature. So they are the top 5.
They were his top 5 in terms of like. Interesting. Yeah.
So has anyone else got any other news? Anything else that they've seen around that is worth?
I've got 2 bits of news. One we may have mentioned 2 weeks ago, but Sue and I are going to an ABBA concert in a few weeks, aren't we? Woo! Chance. Woo! It's gonna be great.
Yeah. Going to ABBA.
Some of your family, isn't it? Somebody dropped out, and I'm taking the ticket.
My son's dropped out. He's had to go back to sea, so Giles is coming to play. I thought, who lives near London and I want to come and play at ABBA?
I don't live that near London, but I'll do it for ABBA and to see you and the rest of your family. It'd be great. And then the other bit of news is I sparked a little bit of debate on LinkedIn last week, I think it was, when I started my LinkedIn blacklist. Did you see that? See my LinkedIn blacklist?
These are the people who break copyright. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
So Andrew Moss and I have probably been the most vocal in our space on this stuff. So we've got a little list that we're keeping now that people are genuinely feeding quite a few names to, where people are consistently like sharing other people's books in full without their permission, or the other thing you see a lot of is people taking like videos from creators and going to the effort of cutting their credits off and then reposting it as their own. And quite often you get these people that will do things like this, and then they'll share a PDF, and then it's like, put your email here to get the high res version, and the data all is for their company, not the authors. So there's all of this stuff that drives me nuts. And we've started a little list. And what is amazing to me, I will never quite understand this, is I've probably got more pushback than I've had supportive messages with people going, oh, you should just focus on positivity. Like, that's the way we're going to change this. Let's just all be nice to each other and say nice things. And maybe it's because I'm 40 now and I'm middle-aged, but I'm too grumpy for that. Like, these people don't care about your positive vibes. Somebody needs to call them out because LinkedIn won't do it. Anyway, that's my rant. How was that?
Did you know? I believe this is correct. So I do like that I started with "Did you know?" and then I went with "I believe this is correct." So I went with a hard statement and then softened it instantly. So I think in Vietnam there is no copyright laws.
Really?
So I used to have an ebook which I used to give away for free, and then I found somebody who was selling my ebook on their website, and I'm like, I'll give it away for free. Someone's making money out of this. And then I followed up with them going, this is right. And they're like, oh, there's no copyright legislation in Vietnam. We can do whatever we like. And I'm like,
wow.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it's the law is, as far as I'm aware, it's not a global law.
So this is why I'm doing it this way, though, because what I've set out is, look, we're going to keep this list. We're not going to just start, if somebody emails me a name or messages me a name, I'm not going to instantly post and go, this guy's an idiot. Like, we'll look at it and we'll keep the list to ourselves. But some of these people have got like 500,000 followers plus on LinkedIn. And I've seen it before where, we will go to the Global Excel Summit next year and you'll see one of these names as a speaker or something. This is my worst nightmare. You see them as a speaker and you're just going, oh, hang on. This is just a LinkedIn hack. How have they actually started to get like some proper respect in the industry? So that's my probably very silly goal that I've set for the year, to actually try and call people out a little bit.
Make them accountable.
Yeah. Sue, any news?
Yes. So I booked my tickets and I am going to Napa Valley on the 2nd of March to run Napa Valley Marathon. And I'm being hosted by a lovely guy called Jack Irby and his wife called Laurie, who I've met as part of the data community over the last few years. And I mentioned that I hadn't run a marathon in America, and he reached out and said, come and stay with us. We're half a mile from the finish line and we'll host you. And so I'm really, really excited. We're planning the trip and I'm going out to run Napa Valley Marathon, which is a Boston qualifier. So depending how the race goes and how I am, it might be an opportunity to qualify for Boston. I've got Chicago later in the year, but maybe Boston.
Can I just get this right? So you mentioned at some point that you hadn't run a marathon in the US and somebody just reached out to you and said, come and stay with us. You can run a marathon in the US. Because I would just like to publicly state, I've never laid on a beach in Florida. I've never done it. I do
know Jack. I have known it is. I can't remember if it's on this or something else.
Anyone's listening to that, I'm just throwing it out there. If anyone wants to reach out, invite me over. Feel free.
Yeah, I've never been on a kind of
for years, but yeah.
I'll add my one. I haven't been on a sort of luxury yacht across the Caribbean before. So again, if anybody owns a yacht and they want to invite me over, I'm free. I can make myself free.
He lives in Napa Valley and it's absolutely beautiful. So he said, do you drink wine?
Well, on that note of jealousy towards Sue, I think we should head on to question of the week before she gloats
28
more
minutes
about that.
And we've done the
news. I do have to run a marathon for it. I do have to run.
Oh yeah, but I mean, I could pretend to run a marathon, and I've pulled my hamstring. Maybe not today. That would be my plan. Anyway, question of the week.
Question of the week.
So let's play the jingle.
It's the question. It's the question. It's the question of the week. It's the question. It's the question. It's the question of the week.
So the question of the week. So our friend Sam McKay has been at it again on LinkedIn. So he had a question last week, or a statement last week, about whether Power BI should be part of Fabric, and he brought up a really good question again this week. Sam, if you're listening, we're not just trying to steal all of your content. I promise you might end up on Giles's blacklist if that's the case. But this was his statement in question. He said, so 50 to 70% of small to medium-sized businesses could use Excel as their database and Power BI as their modeling, analysis, and visualize tool. Agree or disagree? So the majority of small and medium-sized businesses could get away with just using Excel and Power BI as the method of running their businesses. I thought that's a really good question for us to discuss. So before we start, Sue, you know Sam McKay, don't you? Do you want to just kind of mention who he is? So anyone who doesn't know who he is, doesn't think he's just some random person who doesn't know anything.
Sam is wonderful. He's absolutely brilliant. Sam set up Enterprise DNA, which is based in Australia, and he knows his stuff. He really does know his stuff. And he has his platform, Enterprise DNA, hosts lots of different courses. And when I first started in Power BI and using it, what I found was a lot of the courses were very, very technical, as in, this is how you do this, this is how you do that. And it was teaching you how to use Power BI. But what I found different about Enterprise DNA is it's very business focused. So it's very, very much focused on answering and using how you do something within a business using Power BI. And he's also, so good at actually explaining how to do things. His content is excellent. So huge respect for Sam. He's a phenomenal entrepreneur and businessman and excellent teacher. And he really, for me, hit the spot with putting out content that was business related.
Good. So that's Sam. So that's Sam's credentials tick to anyone who doesn't know Sam. Now down to the question. Okay, so what tools do most small businesses and medium-sized businesses, or small and medium-sized businesses, actually need to run and operate? So who wants to go first with their thoughts?
I think
it
probably depends on the scope of what you're thinking about with that stuff. Because I mean, my business partner Miles is probably the better person to answer this, because he does a lot of like fractional CFO work with companies. But I agree, probably almost all companies use Excel to some degree. But I think of like the fundamental accounting things you have to do as a business of any size, really. There are some fantastic off-the-shelf tools that make that so easy. Managing all your accounts, your journals, getting to the point where your year end is ready. I wouldn't want to be doing all of that stuff just across Excel and Power BI. I suspect that's not quite what he meant. So for smaller businesses, I think you could do a hell of a lot of your own analysis and data management and processing just within Power BI and Excel. But you'd never like take away the stuff that is kind of out there off the shelf that does such a good job for really specific things like accounting.
Yes, so just to give the question context. So in Sam's original message, it was about using Excel as a database and Power BI as the analysis and visualization tool. All I've done is kind of broaden that to say what software the businesses need overall. Sue, do you want to?
Yeah, so I think that there is a couple of things. So Excel is phenomenally easy, and everyone has Excel on their desktop. You could use Excel as an input tool for data, but I absolutely love Excel because of the flexibility of what it enables me to do. But as a data ingestion tool, it's when I know that I'm starting new work for a client and it's coming to me in Excel, I get a little shudder inside because I know that there could be anything in it. So so I would say yes, you could use it as a database tool, but what you would need to do is have really, really strict data validation process set up so that everything would be in a table. You would have your data types and your data columns completely validated with the right data type. So it's quite difficult to actually, to set that up. But you could do it if it was set up properly. But my only concern is the data validation within Excel. But so many of my businesses, we have extracts from their software that they use, that they buy off the shelf. And you find that different businesses have so many different off the shelf pieces of software, whether it's Sage or whatever it is, whichever software you're using. And if you can export it as a CSV, save it into SharePoint, pull it into BI, and then create I tend to use data flows a lot, use data flows to store it into a data lake, and then from there create a data model, which then feeds many, many different reports. So you could do that, and that would work really effectively for many businesses. So I think like taking your point, Giles, as to there's lots and lots of different pieces of software. Yep, use them, export as a CSV, set it up automatically to go into SharePoint. SharePoint pulls it into a data flow. That data flow then feeds a data model, which can then feed your reporting. And that would really work for that. And within Excel, you could use Excel to do the same, to manage what you're doing, if you're entering things. But I would stress you would need to be really, really careful about having the data validation and the data type set up to make sure you're not getting a load of rubbish in, because otherwise you're going to get very, very good at Power Query very, very quickly.
I would go harking back to what Giles said. I think there's an element of there's almost operational systems where, for example, in our membership, we have our course platform and we have a payment provider who process payment. Like, we wouldn't even attempt, like, Excel's not the right tool for that. We also have our, as Giles said, an accounting system, just because I think the concept of using Excel as a database, the idea that somebody could just go in and press delete on something, which could be which could then impact your accounts, which then impacts your tax return, and then causes a whole load of pain later on. I think a proper accounting system that will ensure that your records are kept correctly with a transaction log, I think is key. So I would definitely segregate those off. But when it comes down to those kind of, depending on what your business does and how it operates, I think you've got a fair point around the data validation, and that's the flexible nature of Excel means that you can put anything in, and even if you have a data validation list and you can select from a list, you can literally just copy another cell and paste values over that cell, and that validation process doesn't happen. So even with the standard data validation inside Excel, there's still risks and checks that you would need to do. So I think lots of those things you could run it on Excel, and you see businesses who manage their stock in Excel, who create their invoices in Excel, who do all that stuff inside Excel. And I suspect if it's well managed, then it's probably fine. But that's a big if, isn't it? If it's well managed, because the most small and medium-sized businesses, they haven't got the team size to recruit a data person, and they haven't necessarily even got the budget to recruit to get someone like Sue in to kind of build these reports for them. So I think it ends up becoming almost like because I think in the comments to Sam's question, there are a lot of people talking about the cost of the IT and how the cost of the IT and the tools and the infrastructure and all that has come down. And somebody else made the point that the biggest issue isn't the cost. Often it's the skill set. And if you've got a team of, say, 10 people, having somebody who's going to be a dedicated data person, it probably it's probably not going to happen. I mean, if you've got a team of 10, you've probably got, a couple of people, you've got one person on finance, one person on admin, you've got a few people delivering stuff, actually operationally doing whatever needs to happen. And so the data piece always ends up being a part of somebody's role, and therefore they haven't got that dedicated skill set. So I think the biggest barrier to going bigger than Excel or even Power BI is actually skill set, which then means that you don't go for more complex tools, but then you haven't necessarily got the skill set in Excel either. So it's almost like skill set becomes like a double-pronged problem. For if you want to use Excel, you've got to use it exceptionally well and make sure it's well managed, but then the skill set isn't necessarily there to make sure it is well managed. But then you need the skill set to use some other tools that would help you to manage things, but then people haven't got those skills either. So it feels like there's a barrier to entry there.
Yeah.
Even I know Sam's kind of wrapped Excel and Power BI together. I would even you could go even more extreme and push on just, the barrier between Excel and Power BI. Because I think that skill jump is massive. Like, we see this all the time with the training we do. Like, people are just scared, unless you've got some sort of experience or background in data analytics for whatever reason.
Well,
even that's a jump.
Yeah, but if you're using Excel as opposed to data entry, it's two different things. And I think if you can pull in a beautifully structured CSV or Excel table into Power BI as a one table, it's easy. It is pretty easy to drag and drop the columns into a visual, and it adds it up for you. But in real life, data is never, ever that clean. It's never that clean. And people, dates are the biggest thing, because people will write dates in so many different ways. And once you start looking at dates, then it becomes more complex. But I think you're right, Mark. It's almost, if you're going to start using Excel as a database, then you need someone who's got a little bit of data interest. They don't necessarily have to be brilliant at data, but they just want to have that little data gene that tries to understand.
Oh,
I think Sue's dog's barking.
I liked your reaction to that, Sue. Mid-sentence,
just mute,
and you just muted yourself.
So it's having that data gene where you just sort of, and it amazes me sometimes how people don't think about it. If anyone's listening to this, they're going to be data people, so they'll get exactly what we mean. But if you're listening to this, you must have a colleague that just doesn't think about the why. Why is it doing that? And then just questioning it and thinking about it and thinking, oh, I wonder if. And it's that I wonder if that then progresses your skill level forward. But if you haven't got that and you don't want that, then it doesn't matter what tool you're going to use, really.
Can I add an additional thought onto this? Because you've got Excel and Power BI, the tool, kind of the two tools that we're thinking about here. Now, so you've got, in Power BI, if you're a small and medium-sized business, let's say your data requirements are reasonably smallish. So do you even need Power BI? Because if you under your model, so you've got your tools, you've got your CSV files. Why can't you pull those into Excel and create reports from those? And then you've still got this refresh process. So you're not. So in that scenario, you've got using Excel as a database. That's one thing. But then using Excel as your analysis and visualization tool, because those things. So you've got. I mean, you can create basic charts and other things and other visualizations inside Excel. So would you even need Excel in that scenario, or would you even need Power BI in that scenario? And then a follow-up question to that, Sue, is at what point would you outgrow that until the point that actually you do need to start thinking about things beyond that?
Yeah.
So what I would say with that one is, yes, Excel, some of the visualization you can do in Excel is brilliant, and it's such a powerful tool. But the advantage you get from using Excel and Power BI together is that when you use Excel and you pull it into Power BI and you create a model, you can build many different reports from it. So you do that transformation to your, say, your transactional data. You have it extracted on a daily basis and you use Power Query, and it, you know, it maybe aggregates for you, or it will make the changes that you need. And if you pop it into a data flow using Power BI service, that data flow can be accessed by many different Excel reports. It is not just the one. So we're going back to, you do it once, which is Power Query. But if you do it in a data flow online, you do it once, Power Query online, but then it feeds many, many different reports. And it's like a date table. If you set up your company's date table with your financial year and your different things that you have specific to your business, it sits in the data flow and it's pulled into every single Excel report that you need. There's no confusion as to, oh, that day's a holiday, or is this day that it's the one source of the truth. And we used to refer to when you build a Power BI model from your data extracts, you then have a golden data set. So rather than having discussions amongst yourself as to, well, did I transform it this way or did I do it that way? Or how have you got that number and I've got that number? You're not arguing about how you've done it. You're actually spending the time thinking about what it's showing you, as opposed to the different, because so many people can pull the same thing in, transform it and come up with different numbers. So I think when it gets to that point.
And what do you think about rather than using kind of Excel as your data entry tool, about using like SharePoint lists?
Yes, yeah.
Because I remember I joined a business and they had quite a large SharePoint team, and I remember I was talking to one of the SharePoint developers, and they said, "Oh, I'll just have a call and arrange it. We'll go through SharePoint." And I remember I just looked at it and said, "But SharePoint's just a rubbish intranet."
No.
Exactly. And when they showed me what they were doing with SharePoint, I was like, oh, all these other businesses I've worked for, they've literally got, they've not leveraged that thing at all. Because with SharePoint, you can build that almost the entire application that you want to build, and then use your lists as your
you've got your data validation set up. I mean, this is, I can absolutely see Sam's point. I love Fabric. I really, really love playing with Fabric. I use Python so much within Fabric because it helps me with really challenging issues. But for me, for smaller businesses, Power Apps, SharePoint, Power Automate, Excel and BI, I would focus on those, which, will be within, ignore the fact that it's Fabric. Fabric, is something you could move to if you want to, etc. But you can still use Power BI and Excel. It doesn't have to be part of Fabric. And SharePoint is so powerful, Mark. And you can build, like you say, a list where you've got your data validation set up. People can't put a date in unless it's a date. They can't put last week or Jan last year or text in. It has to be a date. And then when it comes into Power BI, it's a date and it's easy. So definitely, yes, SharePoint.
I also think like this is the value of us and other people talking about this stuff, because I always think of like the organic journey people go on. And I think you said before just now, Sue, like lots of people don't care that much about like learning all the stuff about Excel. So organically, if you're a really small business owner, the chances are you're probably going to start off with like Excel and I don't know, Xero or whatever, a very small tech stack that's probably heavily lent on Excel. And you are going to hit challenges bit by bit, and you might go online and you'll learn little things to get a little bit better at Excel. But actually, like getting into the world of Power Apps, the value of SharePoint, that's so valuable. And I don't talk about it enough. It probably could be talked about a lot more by everybody, because to get people from there, from pure Excel to like SharePoint and Power Apps, that almost feels more approachable to me than getting people from there to expert Power BI and potentially Fabric. I would have thought quite a lot more approachable.
And this is another thing that I'm really quite interested in. There's lots of different Power BI reports. I'm okay with my visualization. I do a pretty mean visualization, but my thing is data and modeling. But it's about making sure that wherever you use as your reporting tool, and Kurt Buehler it did a brilliant article on it where it says it should be 3 seconds. It should answer your question within 3 seconds. And then 3 minutes maybe to mess around with 30 seconds to filter, to get it, grouped and according to what you want. And then 3 minutes, when you start going really deep dive. So it's thinking about, and so some of the reports that you see are just phenomenal in Power BI as to what you can do. But actually, do you need to do that? Is that, are you, this is where my yoga bit comes in. Are you tweaking your ego? Are you doing it because you can, a bit like in PowerPoint when you do all these transitions and stuff? Is that an ego thing, or is it what the business wants? And what the business generally wants, like you go back to Giles, I remember setting up my business, and you spend so much time setting your business up that you don't actually get to do your business. I'm like, I don't want to do web. I want to do this. And you have to spend so much time on the things supporting your business rather than doing your business. So you don't want to have to learn too much, unless you're, like us, where you're obsessed with it.
Well, especially you. I think you're probably a bit of an anomaly where you genuinely enjoy Fabric. Like I open up Fabric, and obviously you've helped me get up to speed a little bit with it, but I open it up and I just go, oh my God, I am so uncomfortable in this space.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at it and you're like, oh, this is stuff that I will master, and I'm not a coder. But
yeah, like that. Ooh, what thing are you going to play with now?
I think for the average person, Fabric, paginated reports, semantic model, like you throw all these words at people and they just go, oh, no, thank you.
Yeah, paginated. But for me, it always has a business question. It always has there's a reason. So like paginated reports are brilliant because in Power BI, you can only see what's on the screen. And so most people want to scroll down, and if they produce a report, then, whether it's an Excel or whether it's as a PDF, they want to be able to see what's at the bottom of the screen. And so that's what I really like about paginated reports, is it takes what you've got in Power BI, and you might say, show me the top 5, but for legal reasons, you might want a PDF with a timestamp which shows you all of them. And so paginated reports answers that. So
I remember, I can't remember which book it was, but it was a visualization book, and it said that it used an example of, and they said that this was the epitome of the type of visualization that you want to create, and they used the power symbol on your mobile phone. So that is a visualization that tells you how much power your phone's got. And it's like, you look at it, you don't think, oh, what does that mean? Do I need to drill into this? It tells you exactly what you want, and as it starts to get low, So, and it said that your visualization should be that simple. That it's like, here's the question. Well, here's the answer. How much power have I got? That much. You don't have to drill into a whole load of stuff and go, oh, I've got 37% power, but it's been used on 60% of this and blah blah blah, whatever. It's just
and almost there is the argument that you don't report on the things that are green. So I've got a fabulous customer. I absolutely love working with them. And what we're building is we're building a report which will basically just be colors, red, amber, green. So they've got different metrics, and it would just be a color. If it's green, ignore it. You don't need to click to go into that report, because it's all green, it's all fine. If it's amber, yes, you need to have a look. If it's red, do it now. So it's almost, it goes to your power thing. You know exactly what it is. And red means get it sorted. Amber is, this is going to need some attention. Green is, forget about it. You don't even need to look at it. And
in terms of visualization, there's can I bring up 2 points there? First of all, I mean, there's the color blindness piece around red, amber, green, which I'm sure you're all over that. But if your client's saying they want red, amber, green, then that's their preference. But also, I would say that in that scenario, you don't even need 3 colors, because you only want to draw attention to stuff that might need attention and definitely does need attention. So almost you've got like a pinky color as being you might need to look at it, and then your vivid red as being you definitely look at it, because everything else, if it's okay, the point is we tend to draw attention to stuff that people don't need to look at.
It makes you feel nice though when you look at it, you go, oh, I saw green. I'd like that. I'd go, I saw green. Aren't I wonderful?
So green. Here's all the stuff I don't need to look at. It occupies 97% of the screen.
They're little unicorns with stars and bubbles around them.
So in terms of this question then, at what point, now, I mean, in theory, we're meant to have our main topic, which I'm just going to leave because we're
not got there yet.
No, we haven't got there. So at what point do you think somebody will even if you're talking about just Excel or Excel and Power BI or SharePoint and all these kind of smaller data tools, at what point does an organization outgrow that and need to look for something else?
Can I throw my really, this is my go-to for this answer now, which is 2-pronged. I think it's definitely number of people, stakeholders involved. That was my big click moment at the Global Excel Summit last year with Gasper Kamenshek, when he was talking about even what you've talked about, Sue, multiple reports, role level security. That was a real light bulb moment of I get that's why you would step out of Excel. So I think the number of stakeholders would be one, and then for me it's got to be the complexity, and within that there's probably size and type of data. I would say across those two, that's the best answer I've got at the moment as to when you might. But I'd like to hear other views, definitely.
Mine would be, I think probably just off the top of my head, when it's stopping you grow, when it's stopping you grow your business and take advantage of opportunities that you could take advantage of. If it's working, don't break it. But if you find this is stopping my business grow and it's stopping me achieving my aims, then you need to look at it.
I like that.
Yeah, I think that's I suppose it's an element of in all jobs, in all roles, there's an element of manual work. Okay, and whether at the start of your business, when you're small or medium sized, there's a lot of manual work. The fact it's manual isn't really an issue because you're small enough to handle it. As that level of complexity grows and the level of data grows, at that point you end up in a scenario where you're literally just hiring somebody to do who spends 80% of their time just doing something that Power BI could do, or Fabric or something else. And at that point, I think that's when it becomes a case of we need to focus on something specific here to solve a specific problem. Because when you're hiring somebody to literally just do manual things rather than them actually adding benefit, that's the point at which I think you need to look at
how much are they costing, and what could they be doing elsewise?
And that's because ultimately, if you've got if you're a small and medium sized business, you've got your profit targets and everything else, and ultimately I suppose it comes down to just a pure cost benefit analysis of if you're paying somebody, plucking a number from the air, £25,000 a year, I don't know, just to literally sit there and type in numbers from let's say somebody's just sitting there and typing numbers from invoices that come in into a spreadsheet. At that point, you go, well, how much does it cost if we had an accounts payable scanning system that does that? You then got to think about the complexity of that. Have you got the skill set to manage it and all these other pieces? But I think that's the point at which it switches. But that's almost quite difficult to measure. So I really like Giles's measure of how many internal stakeholders have you got? Because there's always that piece of, you've got a report, you're not allowed to share, Dave's information with Mandy and Mandy's information with Dave, so you have to slice it up and it goes to 2 people. And that ultimately you get, well, it's not too bad. And then suddenly you get 10 people and then 20 people, and the amount of data increases, the amount of scenarios increase, and they've all got their different requirements. And at that point, it gets out of hand. And I think the number of stakeholders is actually probably a really good measure to think about at what point, not that Power BI or something like that is an option, but actually becomes a must, because the complexity of dealing with that is so high.
Well, I think maybe my 2 things trigger Sue's answer. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once the stakeholder and data issues get to a certain point, that's probably where you hit that ceiling where you're like, okay, this is actually stopping me take my business forward now.
And the other thing as well, which is a bit miserable, but someone I was chatting with, and their whole project had to be put back 3 months because of an illness that the main person. So if it's quite heavily dependent on a key individual in your business, then that can also have problems, because taking aside the emotional support and the people care and for your people, but if you're heavily dependent on one person, then it can be worth automating if possible, so that you're not, but then you become dependent upon the software, so you have to make sure the software's good. Because that's the other question, if you are moving to a piece of software, is it any good?
Yep. We had this, there was a tool called DataDeer. I don't know if you remember this, Zero add-in. It wasn't a Zero add-in. It was a third-party tool that could take data from Zero and churn it out into really nice Excel tables. In Excel, it became a tab on your ribbon.
Yeah.
And when Miles and I were doing consulting years ago, we helped loads of customers plug DataDeer in, and then something changed. They got acquired by QuickBooks. I think it all changed to the point where suddenly everybody's reports didn't work, and we just then had all of these emails coming in going like, none of this works. Help. It's like, oh God. So that's not great.
There was a I won't mention the company's name. There was a company name who they had a tool that integrated with Power BI, and I had a client who wanted to use this on. So they were effectively a firm of accountants who wanted to use this to provide Power BI reports on all of their clients. But because it's all monthly fees, they wanted it to be reasonably. The cost doesn't need to be too high, etc., etc. They don't want it too technical. I found this tool. It would have been absolutely perfect. I reached out to them and said, how much would, and I gave them a number of licenses, how much would that cost? And they came back to me and said, oh, we haven't got anyone that's got that many licenses. We'll have to think about it. And at that point, kind of these alarm bells are going off in my mind, thinking you may have the best tool and the exact tool that I want, but the fact you're going, we'll have to think about that. We haven't got anyone of that size. As much as I love your tool, I don't think I can roll this out across all this thing, because
when the alarm bells flood and you sort of go, oh.
Yeah, but if they'd have just given me a number, asked if it cost this much, we deal with this all the time, I'd been, oh, fantastic, yes, have my money. But there is that piece around that small software companies, they just appear and disappear on a regular basis. So that then does become a separate risk about using lots of different tools.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And also, sometimes people aren't necessarily quite as accurate in what they say that it will do. Yes, it can do this. And then you're like, can it really?
Yes. But I think we've probably all experienced that from various salespeople. Here's our software, it'll do everything you want. And then you get it and you're like, it appears to show everything to pennies. I want it rounded in millions. Oh, well, we can't do that. You'll have to export it to Excel. And you're like,
yes.
I'm trying to get away from Excel. That's the whole point of me getting your software.
Yeah.
That kind of answer is literally, that was my life when I first quit my job and I started consulting. It was like off your own back. You go to like people that needed a model and they're like, oh, can you do this type of investment model? You're like, yep.
Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Yes.
Get to the end of the meeting, Google, how do you build this type of But that was early, running your own business mindset of just like, I'm going to get the work. I'll learn it. And as I do it. Interesting times.
I watched Wynn's video on turning off automatic conversion in Excel. It's come out where you can take, because that bit me the other day when I was exporting sort codes, and for some reason it decided they were all dates, and it was just hell, absolute hell. And but you can now click the button to say, do not try and convert my data, leave it alone, Excel.
Nice.
Yeah.
What was our main topic, just out of interest? I know we're not going to do it.
So the main topic, which was actually a rollover from last time, because we didn't get to the main topic then either, is about how we can achieve work-life balance, and does technology help or hinder in that regard. So
something ironic about the fact we can never get onto that topic.
Exactly. We'll roll that over till next time. I mean, it's not causing me any stress, so I'm okay with it. Good stuff. So let's wrap it up there. So thank you, Sue and Giles, for being here. And Wynn, we miss you. We look forward to having you back next time. And thank you, everyone, for listening. And we'll see you all in the next episode. So thanks, everyone. Bye.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.